Hey there, this is Craig Valine, your certified no BS business advisor for Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle, the Glendale, Pasadena, Los Angeles area local chapter. Today we're going to talk about how to write a money-making sales letter. This presentation was featured and presented at the 2011 September local chapter meeting, and a few members had asked for it to be available again, so I figured I'd record it for your benefit. So enjoy. So let's talk about how to write a money-making sales letter. The late Gary Halbert said, the answer to every problem in life is a really good sales letter. Well, maybe not every problem, but good problems, a good amount of problems. I believe because a sales letter is just like someone persuading you to do something, to take some sort of action. So it's like a salesman, or it's like someone who cares about you, convincing to do something they know is good for you, that sort of thing. So the answer to every problem in life is a really good sales letter. It's a funny quote, but it's partially true. So, critical concept number one. For writing copy. Okay, the basics. Copywriting is not advertising; it is salesmanship in print. Like I just said on the previous slide, is you have to think of a sales letter as your top sales pro working for you, sitting across the table, convincing your prospect to buy. That's what a sales letter should do. If it doesn't do that, then it's just a flyer. Okay, a flyer creates interest. A sales letter gets people to take action and give you money. Same principles apply for business to business and business to consumer. Businesses don't buy things, people do. Okay, people in companies do. So the same psychology works to someone in business as it does to a consumer. Don't confuse the two. Okay. Critical copy concept number two: message to market match. The best place to write to are people you already understand. You're one of them. So if your product or service, if you're a user of your product or service, then you can write to the people you're trying to sell to from a, hey, I'm a fellow customer too. You know, there was a funny commercial for Hair Club for Men by Cy Sperling. He goes, I'm not only the Hair Club for Men president, I'm a client. But when you can write from the point of view that you're one of them, it builds a lot of trust. Okay, like, know, and trust factor. All right, so consider that. The good news is you can get a very good response to mediocre copy if you make sure you're sending it to a highly targeted list. So if you have the market right, the right market, with the right message, but even if it's not written as best you possibly can, you can still get a good response. That's good news. Okay, because if you're not the best copywriter in the world, but you really understand your target market's needs and wants and desires, you're all set. The best recipients of your marketing in order of importance are, of course, your own customer list that you have a relationship with because they trust you already. Okay. Second is an endorsement or JV with someone else's list that would be predisposed to do business with you because they like and know and trust you via their the person in charge of the list that you're having the JV with. Okay, and third, lead generation. Okay, it gives you the ability to qualify and disqualify potential prospects. Okay, you want to say who it's for and who it's not for. Okay, don't waste your time with people who it's not for. Okay, and you can incentivize people who it's for by adding some sort of bonus or some sort of thing that will get them to take action immediately. Critical copy concept number three. 5 things you need to be concerned about before you write. You got to understand the who you're writing to. We just talked about that, right? The who is very important. If you get the wrong who, then the message doesn't even matter because it's going to go. Not going to get any response. So understand who you're writing to. You got to list the benefits that your product or service provides. Okay, what's in it for them? What does it do for them? List the reasons why they won't buy. You need to know that so that you can write your copy to overcome that. Okay. Some people do it in the form of frequently asked questions. Some people do it in the form of just writing out, stating the objection in quotes. But you need to know how to overcome that because it will surely come up in while they're reading. how you'll prove your promises, claims, and benefits. Do you have testimonials? Do you have endorsements? Do you have scientific research? How are you going to prove that what your product or service does really does what you're saying? And of course, lastly, the offer. Okay, we marketers use direct response marketing or direct response advertising, but a direct response marketing piece is nothing without the offer. Okay, number one, an offer. Number two, a deadline. Okay, so understand that you have to have an offer. Otherwise, you're just waiting for people to do nothing. They're like, "Well, what should I do?" Tell them exactly what to do. Okay, the offer makes the close. That's the closing the sale if you were in person selling. Okay, so you close the sale and you incentivize people to take action. All right, the headline. The chief job of the headline is to get the reader to read the rest of the copy. I would even go so far to say it's the chief job is to get them to read the next line of copy. Okay, you want to create a slippery slope. Okay, Joe Sugarman actually taught me that, and when he wrote the book Secrets, Advertising Secrets of the Written Word. Something like that. It's a phenomenal book. But Joe Sugarman created the old blue blocker sunglasses. Actually, he still has them, but he used to have some fun commercials on TV when I was growing up, at least. But anyway, the chief job is to get the reader to read the rest of the copy. It needs to answer, so what? Who cares? What's in it for me? Why are you bothering me? Okay? If it doesn't do that, they won't read the next line of copy. So keep that in mind, okay? And there's no place to skimp. You want to write like anywhere from 10 to 100 different headlines. Number one is because you never want to go just with the first headline you come up with. But number two is that you may use some of those headlines you've written in different parts of your copy, okay? They could be used as subheadlines, pre-headlines, line benefits in your copy, so keep the list nearby while you are writing your sales letter. Use successful headlines to guide you. Okay, if you go to Google, you can type in 100 best headlines written, and it'll bring you up a list. But a lot of advertising books that you might find in Barnes and Noble or any bookstore, they usually have something like that, the best headlines ever written. But I think you can Google it. You'll find it. And they all have certain formulas that work, like how to, the secrets of, who else wants to, headlines that ask a question. So use those formats that are already proven to work. You do not have to reinvent the wheel. Okay, and make them as long as they need to be. There's different guidelines out there by different copywriters, legendary advertising people. Some say 17 words is the max or whatever. Write it as long as it needs to be to make the point to get them to read the next line. Okay, don't get caught up in that. Really comes down to testing. Which headline will work better than another, and if one is longer and it works, then use it. Most common categories of headlines are flagging. That's like calling out to people, like attention business owners, okay? Creating curiosity, making a promise or promises, putting a guarantee in your headline, presenting fear or a story or an event. Headline boosters that make headlines work better, put it into a question, use the how-to formula, the who else formula, use a person's name in the headline. That'll really capture their attention. Add a guarantee, turn it into a question, add curiosity, put it inside quotation marks. Kind of talked about that. Dan Kennedy's headline test is, will it make the reader read the next sentence? Okay, which I've been saying along, and will it stand alone? Could you use that headline as a classified ad and get people to pick up the phone and call you or go to a website or do something? Could it instill people to action? Is it that good? Okay, so the headline matters. The headline is super duper important. Okay, so here's an example of a letter from Joe Polish. Okay, so he, I think it's Joe Polish's. Anyway, but notice the big headline that stands out. Okay, it's not on corporate letterhead. You don't worry about that. Okay, put your stuff down the bottom if you're going to do it, or at the end of the letter. It's not so much about you. It's about the person reading the letter. Okay. So an open letter to every person in Ohio who owns a corporation and foolishly believes it will protect their personal assets. Now, for anybody who owns a corporation, obviously they've done their homework. They have to, right, to only send to corporations, and he's addressing a big myth in business, okay, that your personal assets will be protected if you get sued. Okay, so be careful of that. That's all I have to say. But anyway, good headline there. All right, subheads. It should be able to stand alone also. Okay, so could you use a subhead? Remember, you can borrow from that list of 10 to 100 that you've created, and it could be used alone, just like in a classified ad, to stimulate someone to action. Okay. Should make the person read the next sentence, of course, just like a headline. Able to cause the person to read from the point where the subhead appears. So if they didn't read the headline but they read the subheadline, that should be able to tell them exactly what's going on as well. Again, the shortcut is use some of the headlines from your original headline list. Okay, so here's an example that the writing in blue is a subheadline. Okay, if you're struggling to build your list and make money online, read on to discover the simplest strategy to capture blah 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 blah. Okay, that's the subheadline. The headline alone, warning: dangerously effective list building secrets may cause your inbox to over. It's a good headline for the people that they're trying to reach there. Okay, credibility, very important. Testimonials are always important. Who else says so? Two best or outcome testimonials. I used Craig's marketing secrets, and I doubled my income in less than 6 months. Overcome objections. Okay, hey, I was going to work with Craig because I was afraid to, because I've worked with other consultants, but Craig was awesome. He came through. He did this, that, yes. That would be good for people who have fear of working with consultants. So think about what the most common objections are, and get testimonials from it. Okay. Accomplishments, awards you've won, articles you've written, books you've written, how long you've been in business. These add to your credibility. Damaging admission selling. Okay, best way to get people to know that this is for real is say, hey, like I work with the chiropractic field. Okay, so my damaging admission is that I'm not a chiropractor. And say, hey, look, if you were looking for another chiropractor with a chiropractic management company to come in and save your business, I'm not that guy. What I am is I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. I know marketing, I know business, and I can come in objectively with a fresh set of eyes to help you reach the goals you want in the fastest time possible. Okay, so I've gotten the damaging admission. I'm not a chiropractor, and if you were looking for one, well, I'm not it. So it works because it proves you're human. Proves that you're being honest with them. Okay. If you use pictorials, okay, before and after photos, okay, so if these are great in losing weight, right? I was this big and now I'm this big, or I had no money in my pocket and now I drive a Mercedes, or I couldn't stop smoking but then I stopped smoking, or whatever. Think about it. Use whatever way you possibly can. People often show bank statements, which can be fudged. The best things like that, if you're going to show bank statements in your marketing, show it on the desk. Don't get a picture of the desk behind it to show that it's real, versus these things that have been scanned. It's not believable. Okay. Checks as well. Okay, guarantees. Three chief types of guarantees here. Didn't sound right when I said it. Anyway, the satisfaction guarantee, you'll be totally satisfied or you get your money back. Results, if you don't accomplish these results in the time said, you get your money back. And then perception is if at any time you're just not happy or it's not working out like you thought it would, send it back. Realize the longer you have a guarantee, and I might have already said this, the longer you have a guarantee, number one, the more you remove the risk, but number two, the more people forget about it and they're not going to take advantage of that. So don't be afraid to offer a guarantee. You can have multiple versus single guarantees. Okay, like one of my clients, former clients and former Glazer Kennedy members, is an attorney in Glendale, and she said, I'm really trying to differentiate myself. So what could I guarantee? I can't guarantee results. And I said, I think you haven't gone far enough yet. I think you can guarantee things. And she came up with, we said, what's the biggest problem that your clients perceive to them to be a real problem? And they said, she goes, well, they always hate that lawyers never return phone calls on time. And I said, well, there you go. um, if what could you do? So she said, she created this 5-point guarantee. Basically, it says, if I don't return your call within 24 hours, I will refund one billable hour. Okay, so that's the first one. Number two was, if you're ever waiting in my waiting room longer than 15 minutes, then something something something. I'm not even sure. I forget. It's on our website though. But she came up with that, and it works because people are like, why wouldn't I go to this attorney when she guarantees everything that she will not do everything that I hate about dealing with lawyers? Okay. So multiple versus single. Keep that in mind. Okay. The longer, the less refunds. Like I said, you could have a full year guarantee, and very few people will take advantage of you on that. Okay. Conditional versus unconditional. Conditional would be you must do everything that I told you to do before I'll accept a refund and prove it. Unconditional would be, look, if you're just not happy, if it just didn't work for you, so send it back. So don't be afraid to do that. Okay. How to say it is very important. So you want to look at other people's um, guarantees and see how they word it. See if there's commonalities, and also you may want to um, consider speaking to a lawyer about it. Just to make sure that you can say certain things in the state of California. Okay. So here's an example of one that I found on Google. Better than risk-free money-back guarantee. We understand that this program may not be for everyone. We offer our program risk-free for 30 days. If you're not happy with the program within 30 days, contact us and we refund you, etc., etc., etc. So you can just do a search on guarantees and find the wording. Try it out. But like I said, just you may want to consult an attorney just to make sure that what you're writing is legal. All right, cosmetics. What are cosmetics? So the cosmetics are like copy doodles, or they're things that highlight certain points of your letter. So, and it's to increase the likelihood of readership. Okay, so you want to draw people's eyes to certain points within the letter. Okay, it's to keep the person reading. Uses like a dual readership path. It highlights key points. And it makes long copy seem less intimidating. Okay, if it's broken up or if it has bold things, you don't want to look at a bunch of boring words that I have a fax from Dan Kennedy here. I get a Monday morning fax every week, and he writes in large paragraphs, and it's hard to read. And he's a copywriter. It's hard to read. So you want to be able to jump down at things. If he had some bold points or highlights or arrows or something like that, it'd probably be a lot easier to read. Okay. You also want to relay your message by just reading the cosmetic facts. Okay. It's kind of like what I had just mentioned about the dual readership path. Some people will read every word, some people won't. They want to jump down, they want to see, just get right to what's this all about. So if you have key things kind of jumping out, they can get what the whole thing is about. Okay. So here are most common choices of cosmetics: bold facing, underlining, italicizing, type sizes, increasing or decreasing the size of the letters, indents, subheads, boxes and borders, screens, so shading, color, handwritten notes, crossouts, photographs, yellow highlighter, charts, sidebars, etc., etc., etc. These are all good, and these are all almost all of them can be done on in Microsoft Word. But if you do not have copy doodles, I would encourage you to check it out. It's very, very good. I've been a member since it was created of the Copy Doodles Access Club. In fact, if you go to our website, www.glendalepasadena.com/copy doodles. You can see what they have. I think they have an offer, and you can get some free ones to download to check them out. So I would encourage you to do that because it really draws attention. It makes your marketing more fun. And Mike Capuzzi is a friend of mine. He does a great job with bringing up fun copy templates and cartoons and stamps and everything. So check it out. Check it out. All right, so here's an example. In fact, this is loaded with copy doodles. Okay, so you see right here, this is a handwritten thing. It's a pre-done image, and then these lines down here are copy doodle lines, but it draws attention to what you want them to read. Okay, there was an envelope attached to this, but I took it off. That had hey Mike, open this now, or something like that, and it had a big star or something like that. But it draws attention. Okay. Your offers, okay, best when it has a name, like I just made a presentation. I created a new product for a speaking engagement that I'm doing in the near future, and I call it Craig Valine's Consulting Success Blueprint. That's an offer. It's not just like, hey, get on this webinar series, 8-week webinar series. It's a product name, or it's a make it fun, make it entertaining. Because you'll get more response to it. Value build, show it in parts. Okay. And using apples to oranges comparison. So like the webinar series that I'm doing, it's not just another webinar. Basically, it's like going to school to be a consultant. So how much would you pay to go to school for that? It might cost you a couple $1,000s. Well, this one you can only do it for $497. It's like apples to oranges. So you just want to show that it's not like everything else. Show how it's different. So for instance, Dan Kennedy sells his live recordings of seminars, or like the super conference and things like that, and sells them for anywhere from 197 up to 29.97, right? When people see 2 CDs for 197, but when they go to Nightingale Conant, they get 6 CDs for $65. They're like, what the heck? It's only 2 CDs. It's not, and you have the apples to oranges comparison. Is the apples to apples would be, yeah, they're both CDs, so they should be priced accordingly. The apples to oranges is, it's like attending a live seminar and being there. How much would you pay to be at a live seminar? Versus the Nightingale Conant is just selling CDs. Does that make sense? Apples to oranges. Don't do apples to apples, because then they're going to go, wait a minute. If I paid this for this, I should pay the same for this. What's different about it? Well, you have to use your persuasion skills. It's like being at a live seminar or whatever. Okay. Giving offer choices. Give a deluxe and basic, or a good, better, best offer. It will increase your response, because when you just give an offer, it's like yes or no. But when you have multiple different kind of choices, you get a higher likelihood that they'll buy. Also give payment options. They can pay over time. Like for instance, the course that I'm doing, or the course that I'm offering when I speak in the near future, it has a 1 pay of $497, and then it has a 3 pay of $247. Now the monthly thing, or the 3 pay, is a little bit more expensive because we're not getting paid right away, and there's more risk involved with it. But for the person who was going to say no because it was going to cost too much, hey, it makes a big deal to them. Okay. Discount for prepayment. If they prepay, they get a huge discount that gives you money up front. It's a benefit to you. Discount for using a specific type of payment. For instance, I don't like my clients to use Discover because they don't pay well to me. So I'm going to give people an option to use MasterCard or Visa because I get paid almost immediately from them. So. And if you have bonuses tied to the offer, okay, to encourage fast response. Sometimes people will buy your product or service just because of the bonuses you offer. So keep that in mind. Deadlines. Remember we said earlier, it's not direct response if there's not an offer or a deadline attached to it, okay? So people are more motivated by fear of loss than a personal gain. So if they feel like they're going to lose out, they're more likely to act. So, you might use, I'm only having this sale for, or only offering this product or service until Friday. After that, I'm just done with it. You might have a certain date. You may have have it stamped in red so it gets them to respond better. I remember Jeff Paul, who was one of the early information marketers with Dan Kennedy. Um, he had every time he'd send an order form, there was a red stamp on it, so you knew that there was a deadline. Okay, and it made me respond to it. And if I didn't have the money, it made me act fast to find the money. You can make it limited to the first number of people who respond, limited supply, you got a waiting list, reward a bonus for fast response. Um, Multiple deadlines are very effective. So like Glazer Kennedy does this with, like, for instance, the Super Conference and the Info Summit. The first offer is $500 off the admission if you respond 6 months out. Then it goes down to 400 or 300. Then it goes down to 200. Then it goes down to 100. And then if you haven't responded, you don't get it. And along with those, they also offer like CDs or DVDs or something like that. Last year for the Super Conference, they gave away Frank Kern's videos. So his 4-day cash machine and some other things that were really powerful. And if you missed out, if you didn't sign up on the right month, then you didn't get that particular CD that month. So again, multiple deadlines are very effective. Your story is super duper important. Okay, people are trained to read and listen to stories. It gives credibility to your copy. If you can be, again, it's the know, like, and trust factor. The more they feel connected to you, the more they can trust to buy from you. You need to tell your entire story every time. Don't assume everybody knows or has been listening to your story. Like every time I start up a chapter meeting, I tell the same story over and over again, even though members have heard it. Some have been with us for 4 years. I tell this entire story because there's new people in the room, right? But there's also members who haven't been there in a while, and then there's members who just weren't paying attention when I told the story before, or they might hear something different, okay, that might persuade them to buy more of what I'm selling. Here's a great example of a story. It may or may not be true, but it's the Wall Street Journal's one of their best controls. They've tested it against other letters, and this one keeps on producing. So it's like on a beautiful late spring afternoon, 25 years ago, two young men graduated from the same college. They were very much alike. These two young men both had been both had been better than average students, both were personable, and both, as young college graduates are, were filled with ambitious dreams for the future. Recently, these men returned to their college for their 25th reunion. They were still very much alike. Both were happily married, both had 3 children, and both, it turned out, had gone to work for the same Midwestern manufacturing company after graduation, and were still there. But there was a difference. One of the men was manager of a small department of the company. The other was its president. What made the difference? And then it goes on to say, well, one read the Wall Street Journal, the other did not. That's a story, okay? And again, that may or may not be true, but it certainly gets people's attention, okay? So use stories. Tell your own story, and or create a story so it presents the message in a way that people can understand. Okay, using bullets. Use everything you got. Again, you can use the headlines from what you had before if you wanted to. Make a list of features. Turn the features into benefits. Okay, nobody cares about for instance, on a product, that it has a shiny gold knob. What does the shiny gold knob do? Why is that of benefit to me? Never leave anything to be translated by the reader. You've got to explain. Never assume that they know what you're talking about. There are no obvious benefits. So if, of course it's great. It's steel. Well, what does that mean to me? All right. Sell with benefits, improve with features. For instance, here's a letter from Joe Polish, and it's listed about 1 through 9 or something like that. I'm sorry, there's a glare on my screen. But anyway, there's it sells the benefits of what he's offering immediately. Okay, so again, don't leave anything to the imagination. The PS is postscript, Okay, powerful ways to use a PS: restate the benefits. Some people jump to the PS because they know that something's going to be restated there. Introduce a new benefit that you hadn't mentioned in your copy before. Restate a promise. Introduce a new promise. Provide credibility. It communicates urgency, deadline. Restate the deadline in there. Restate your guarantee. All right. And you can have multiple or single. Okay, multiple. Again, whatever you have to say to get people to take action, do it. Okay, here's an example of two PSs by Joe Polish. Okay, so powerful. Okay, and the close. Most people are not strong enough or forget to ask for the order. They just said, well, a lot of people have this notion that if they want it, they'll buy it. No, you have to ask. There's a funny story. When I was a long time ago, I was membership director for Pasadena JCs, and we used to have mixers every month. And this one guy kept coming to our mixers every month and just kind of standing near the table. And he was he was an interesting guy. He was very intelligent, very kind of quiet though. You could just see him, mulling around, looking to see what we're doing. And I said, so when are you gonna join? I said, a scale 1 to 10, where are you? And he says, about 9. And I said, what would it take to be a 10? He goes, if you ask me to join. We just assumed he was having a good time, that he would join, and that was a big lesson for me. So remember that you got to ask for the order. Tell people exactly what you want them to do. Don't assume that they know. If it's to call your office, or if it's to go to a website, or if it's don't assume that they know your website or know your phone number. Don't assume they know what to do. If people don't respond now, they probably never will. Meaning, if you sent out a letter and you got absolutely no response at all, that means the letter's not working. So you've got to change something. Okay. If you got one response, at least and the list is consistent about, meaning the same qualities of the list exist throughout, then chances are that other people will respond too. But if no one responds, don't mail that same offer to the list. Critical concept number 4 for writing copy. Okay, the dual readership path, as I said before. You gotta. People don't always read word for word, so you want subheadlines to be able to tell the story if they want to just jump down, okay, through the letter. The prospect can buy if they just read this, if they can read the headline, the subhead, photo captions, the ordering instructions. So right here is an example of dual readership path. Okay, right here. So we did some critiques, by the way, at the meeting. This was Heather Morrow's, and she got a critique on hers. I thought it was an email, but it was an actual letter. So number one, she was missing a headline, but the great thing about this was she told the story, which was very powerful. She has a PS, she has an offer, but there were some other elements that unfortunately I can't remember exactly what I told her. But she had no. She also had no testimonials. She had no proof. She didn't explain, like she gave a deadline, but she didn't say why there was a deadline, and why that particular pricing. So she got a fair on it, but good for her for at least writing the letter. The second one came from a Glazer Kennedy member who was not a chapter member at the time. Her name is Nelia Miller, and she sent an email that she had sent out to someone in her industry, and again, I don't know what the subject line was, so I just told her there was no headline. There was no real reason to read word for word down the list. She did use some benefits and everything, but what I would recommend is if you provide benefits, you've got to back them up with features or proof that it exists. So for instance, right here, her product will help the person reading and his clients get better focus during workout, reducing the risk of improper form and injury, quicker muscle recovery with joint with less pain, so you can work out more often, etc., etc. It's like, prove that. You've got to show why that exists. Why with our product that will exist versus anybody else's. Okay, and several other things. I don't want to do you a disservice by kind of guessing here, but I had used the critique form that Dan Kennedy had given me, and I presented it to them at the meeting. So here's some resources that I recommend if you want to get better at writing sales letters in copy in general. The Ultimate Sales Letter book is $14. You can get that at any bookstore or Amazon.com. Have it delivered right to you. It is one of the best books I've ever seen on writing copy. It is a reference book for me. I still have my original one that I got 17 years ago. And then on the Glazer Kennedy resource site, Magnetic Marketing in the New Economy is really good. There are templates in there that you can use, pre-written letters that you just modify for every type of business. So if you don't want to write from word 1 to word 400, you've got letters that are already pre-written that you can just modify. It's a really good course. I got mine in 1997, and it's just awesome. I still have it. And I still use it. Copywriting Mastery and Sales Thinking Bootcamp, very powerful program. Creating Copy That Sells was Bill Glazer's course, very powerful, and I believe that's an online training right now. Cash Copy Clinic, very powerful. In the Influential Writing Workshop, which I think is one of Dan's best programs, it talks about writing to create influence. And I don't mean just to influence people to buy, but to influence people to basically buy from you just about every time you write. There's very, very powerful concepts in there. It's stuff you won't learn anywhere else. So I encourage you to get it if you can at some point. It is an expensive program. But if you classify expensive as, hey, I could, dole out $2,000, but for what it will do for you, it's one of the best investments there is. I have all these products and these courses, and I just love every single one of them. So you can check out the resource site at on our website, www.glendalepasadena.com/GKIC resources, and take a look at the catalog there. But these programs right there are some of the best, in my opinion. So this is it. This is how to write a money-making sales letter. I hope it was of some value to you. I just kind of decided to record it last minute for you. But if you have any questions, or if you need coaching on how to write better copy, feel free to send me an email at Craig Valine, Valine at hotmail.com, and we'll set up a time to get together and discuss that. So anyway, that's it for today. Congratulations on getting through this. And write copy, write persuasively. Okay, use the elements that we talked about here in this presentation, and again, if you need help, ask for it. Don't try to wing it. But at the very least, get the Ultimate Sales Letter book and use that as a reference. Read it and highlight it and keep it near you every time you write a letter. It will be very helpful to you. But that's it. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you very soon at our upcoming local chapter meeting. Bye now.